Recently, I haven't been able to work. I had an ovarian cyst rupture on me, and I went from over 40 hours a week, working out every single day, and being able to independently do simple tasks like clean the house, cook dinner, to this. And for the first time in a while, I found myself feeling extremely unstable, specifically financially. And it's got me thinking a lot about how far I've come and how my view of stability has drastically changed since quitting my 9-to-5 job. Stability. A situation in which something such as an economy, a company, or a system can continue in a regular and successful way without unexpected changes. When I quit my 9-to-5 job, my biggest fear was a loss of stability. I was terrified of the idea of not having a stable income, of welcoming that consistent, unexpected change. And I was constantly asking myself, how am I gonna pay the bills? Is this even worth the risk? And will I ever actually feel stable without a 9-to-5 job? I had convinced myself that the peak stability in my life was working that stable 9-to-5 corporate job, getting my consistent bi-weekly salary, owning a home, putting a set amount into retirement each month, and continuing this way until I could safely and securely retire. I had been telling myself the lie that a 9-to-5 job was the only path to stability. And that stability I kept referring to was solely financial stability. And boy, was I wrong. Growing up, I never felt like we were financially stable. My mom was raising 3 kids on her own, and that was definitely not the recipe for being rich. So naturally, I became obsessed with money, and not just getting money, but controlling money. If someone asked me to borrow 50 cents in middle school for a snack, I would hound them to pay me back that 50 cents every day thereafter. And growing up in a wealthy area filled with a lot of wealthy children, that didn't get me a lot of brownie points with the friends at school. When I was 16, I opened an investment account under my mom's name so I could start investing in my retirement. Link in the description box below for Betterment if you're curious about that. That is what I used even back when I was 16. When I was 17, I started budgeting my part-time job income, which was no more than $100 a week, using YNAB, or You Need a Budget, which I also still use to this day. Link in the description box below. And when I was 18, I got my first credit card to begin building my credit to ensure my first home purchase would be a breeze. And at age 23, 1 year into the workforce, I had paid off all of my consumer debt and was working towards paying off my student loans as well. I was investing in my 401k each month and even setting aside some extra cash for an emergency fund and general savings. My formula for stability was some strange combination of my salary with my net worth and my personal savings rate, as well as my retirement inputs. And then of course factoring in the overall value of the benefits I was getting from this stable 9-to-5 corporate job. And by that formula, I had reached peak stability at the young age of 23 years old. But why was I still so anxious, miserable, and unhappy on a daily basis? If you've been around for a while, you know the story too well that I then quit that stable corporate job that I thought I had to have to feel this sense of stability in my life because I wasn't feeling stable and I was so miserable. And after quitting that job, my anxiety decreased drastically, which was absolutely shocking for me because using my old formula, my sense of stability should have been really in the negative. Even though now I was making way less money, using up my savings instead of adding to it, and not anywhere near close to being able to actually invest into my retirement account, I actually felt more stable than I ever had before. And that is when the breakthrough happened. I finally realized that my definition of stability had been flawed all along. And this skewed definition had formed these limiting beliefs inside of me that had been holding me back for years. I'd been living in this shadow of not trusting myself, thinking that success is just beyond my grasp, and even fearing that making money for myself was rare and fleeting. I had wrongly equated stability with job security, income, and net worth. And even worse, I had put my trust in corporations to provide and consistently keep my sense of stability at the high peak that I thought it needed to be at. So now fast forward 2 years later, as I sit stuck in my apartment, sedentary and unable to do anything for myself, dependent on my husband to make me food and clean up after me, I finally realized how complex the concept of stability really is, which sparked me to go on a journey to look for the true definition of stability, because I've clearly been calculating it all wrong. So as I began this journey on the search for the true formula of stability, I decided that I wanted to get a well-rounded look at how different people in my life define stability from the context of their specific discipline or field that they're in. So I decided to focus on 4 key areas. I was going to look at aerial because that is my pastime when it comes to physical activity, a financial professional because that hit on my pain point of money and finances when it comes to stability, engineering because I am an engineer at heart and I think career is a huge component to stability. And lastly, mental health, and we will actually be talking to a therapist to get her definition and formula for stability. Okay, so I'm heading to aerial now and I'm gonna ask my aerial instructor, Lindsay, to define stability for us. And when I first started doing aerial, there's a specific move that I always struggled with feeling very stable in. I would always slide or fall out of it. And so I'm thinking she's gonna focus on that because I know I've asked her about that move before, but yeah, we'll see how she defines stability and how she recommends to stay stable when it comes to silks. Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
In a hip key, to stay stable, your top hip needs to be pressed into the posts. You also need to be piked or crunched in. If your legs are straight out or your hip isn't pressed in, you're going to slide out of the wrap. You can also hold on to the tails or bring them into your shoulder to help. Also, turn down to the ground, torso twisted to the floor.
So I've started to realize that I know I'm setting people up for failure by asking them to define stability without giving them much context and telling them that I want their definition to be from the perspective of their specific discipline. But I know in general the concept of stability, it varies depending on what you're looking at. So, you know, we gotta get all the range of disciplines here. So the place we are going is to talk to a financial professional who is going to tell us her definition of stability. So let's head out and go see what she has to say. Okay, I'm joking. I'm not actually gonna go anywhere. I'm just gonna give her a FaceTime call and get her input over FaceTime because I am a homebody, but maybe we'll go out for some of the other ones. So, what is your definition of stability?
I feel like I have 2 different versions of what that means to feel stability in your life, because I have my coaching world opinion and then I have my financial world opinion, but they do collide. So I would say when it comes to my coaching world, I'm looking at total radical responsibility, which I can parlay into finances as well. So in the financial services world, when I'm looking at somebody making sure that they have safety and security and stability, I'm like, all right, they need to make sure that they can endure whatever life brings them. So I'm always looking at like, okay, do you have long-term care? Do you have life insurance? Do you have living benefits? What are the things that you're doing now to protect you in the long run, so that you can go about and live your life and not stress about those things?
Right.
Because it's always that thing that gets thrown in that creates the problem. So if people are taking full responsibility and self-insuring, and then in their own personal lives taking radical responsibility and doing what they really desire and what they really want for themselves, that's how they create true safety and security.
Right. If you had to put this into like a formula, you're basically talking about what amount of years or how long do you have where you'd actually be able to take care of yourself, where you've taken responsibility for yourself financially and you can handle a curveball that comes your way. Like that's gonna bring you that stability.
Exactly. Because life has bumps and, you know, bruises, things are coming up all the time.
Now you all know why she's my financial professional, because she very much aligns with what I talk about, so. Awesome, well thanks so much for sharing your definition, and we'll have her info linked down below for you guys if you want to reach out and you're looking for a financial professional yourself. Okay, next we're going to be getting the definition or formula for stability from an engineering perspective, which I had these grand plans of going to Lockheed Martin and specifically asking them to let me speak with an engineer there who would give me their definition or formula for stability, but I am lazy and have social anxiety and I'm really sorry, but I'm not gonna go do that. So what I did instead is I asked myself, over here, little engineering professional, I'm wearing an old UFI t-shirt where I used to work in college because didn't want to share with you guys where I actually worked when I was an actual engineer after college. But I Google searched the definition or formula for stability, and I got what first came to my mind when I thought about it, which was the formula for airplane stability, which is what prompted me to say, let me go ask someone at Lockheed Martin. But Google works too. So if you Google search, this is what you're gonna get, which is the formula for stability from an engineer's perspective. And yes, I am indeed wearing a shirt that still has a tag on it. I never actually wore this shirt whenever I was given it when I worked this job, but we're gonna just ignore that and pretend that this is something I actually normally wear. But lastly, let's go interview a therapist to get her definition of stability.
Hey, Paige.
Hi. So what's your definition of stability? But first, I guess, explain your occupation or what you do for context.
Okay, so I am a licensed mental health counselor. So I act more as like in the therapist role, but currently I focus on post-traumatic stress disorder. So I mainly work with veterans, first responders, really anyone outside of those professions that have experienced a traumatic event. So that's mainly what I specialize in.
What is your definition of stability?
So the way that I describe it in real life would be you're seeing consistency behaviorally, mentally, and emotionally in all domains of your life. So you feel balanced in how you're spending your time in these various life areas. That could be like your professional life, your personal life, with friends, with family, and your values also match this. And that is quite literally what I try to work on with patients. And there's even a treatment approach called behavioral activation that's evidence-based. And it helps with depression, it helps with lots of different things, but that's kind of like the definition of what we describe. And you are focusing on the activities, your routine, and just seeing, yeah, do these things line up? Do they match? And not just in one, so you could be killing it at work, but you might notice I'm not really spending time with people. I'm not, you're not going to feel as stable as a person is kind of what I'm thinking.
Right.
You're a person.
No, it's funny because that perfectly segues into what this video goes into after this. Awesome. Thank you so much for all the answers. That was super helpful. I quickly realized that the definition of stability was highly dependent on the lens that you were looking at it from. But what was clear is that stability wasn't just from the financial lens or just from the emotional lens. It seemed to me that it was about a balance of stabilizing and destabilizing forces that equal out at the end of the day to give you this semblance of full life stability. So after doing some more research, I came across this graphic by Tara McMahon from Explore What Works. She broke stability into 5 key categories: financial, psychological, temporal, physical, and social. And this clearly shows the range of experiences and circumstances that can play a role in how stable you feel in your life. From income to mental health, friendship to freedom, the misconceptions I had about stability started to get a lot clearer, which led me to my final formula that takes into account multiple factors across all of these categories. And just like those little graphics that you always have in the front of those life planners where it tells you to kind of fill in exactly how far you are from each of the key categories in your life and how progressed and well you feel like you're doing in each of those, that is what this formula conveys. How stable do you feel in each of these categories? And if you're negative and feel very unstable in one of them, that's okay because one of the others might balance it out instead. So with my mindset shifted, I decided it was time to actually start working on holistic stability within my life and not just focusing on how much money I'm making. Because at the end of the day, as Tara McMahon wisely said, stability can't be bought. So what does that look like for me? Well, I did a little bit of brainstorming and within each of the 5 categories to see where I was falling short in my pursuit of stability. Awareness and recognition is always step 1 in trying to change any aspect of your life. Financial. In my financial area, it was very clear to me that my key issues were my personal savings rate. So kind of looking back at that old formula I was using, it was clear to me I needed to work on how much I was actually saving of the money I was making. Paying off my debt, the concept of student loans restarting and having to start making payments on those with the threat and fear around the interest accumulating, I knew that tackling my student debt was something that had to come pretty quickly. And increasing my savings and my emergency fund. If I learned anything from this whole scenario where I had an ovarian cyst rupture out of nowhere when I was at what I thought was my peak health in my entire life, it's that you never know what's gonna happen, and I did not prepare for the concept of not being able to work for a month and having a bunch of medical bills. So saving up a larger emergency fund is definitely a top priority for me in this area. Psychological, introducing more novelty in my life. I love this concept because novelty is what really keeps people motivated. Preparing for that exciting vacation that you have planned coming up, or buying a new piece of clothing, making new friends, having different and unique experiences in your life. These are all things that have that sense of novelty to them that bring a little bit of serotonin boost into your life, a little bit more dopamine. So that is something I definitely want to incorporate more, especially as someone who is very routined and very much a homebody. Reconnecting with my faith, and specifically finding an actual church community that I love and am excited to go to on a weekly basis. This has been on my list for quite some time, and it was very clear to me during this whole experience that that is something I need to really focus on. And then practicing journaling and this concept of reaching the end of thought. I first heard about this from Dr. K, or you might know him as Healthy Gamer GG on YouTube. He referenced this idea of going on a walk with nothing to distract you until you reach the end of thought, because that is when you have your best ideas, you feel the least amount scattered, and leads to getting, better sleep at night because you're not trying to reach that end of thought right before you fall asleep. And it's something that I know I need to do because I constantly like to have something distracting me throughout the day and at night when I have insomnia and can't sleep. Physical. This is an area that I felt was already going pretty well, but this whole sickness and unknown with what was happening to me was definitely a kind of kick in the butt that, I don't have everything under control and I can't control everything. So what I can control though is continuing to do intuitive eating and eating a balanced diet overall, as well as continuing to work out, getting fresh air outside, all of those good things, because I know that drastically improves my feeling of stability in my life. Because during this whole month, I was not allowed to work out and couldn't even go on walks, and it became very obvious again that that really decreased my feeling of stability. Temporal. This is one that I love to talk about, and I love that it's in this graphic because it's one that I didn't really consider before I left my 9-to-5 job as being a component in stability. I viewed this one as something that I strived for and wanted, and it was a big reason why I wanted to quit my job, but didn't ever seem actually attainable, and I felt like having this temporal stability actually would mean a decrease in my stability because, again, I didn't view it as something that made me stable. So for this one, what I do want to do, even though it's pretty high since I work for myself and I have a lot of freedom and autonomy by myself to do what I want to do, I want to increase my rest to work ratio. So stop overworking myself, give myself breaks, give myself time to actually recharge between days of work and weeks of work and months of work. I want to set a commitment limit. I definitely have a struggle with overcommitting to things and not having great boundaries around saying no, and that leads to consistent burnout and constantly being overworked. So I think a commitment limit is something that is very doable and attainable that I really want to work towards. And then lastly, strive for more support in my business, which is something I already have quite a bit of considering how early on I am in my journey. But having the support from my editor, Alice, as well as Alice helping me with other client projects, and having other people in my life that help me do tasks here and there, having mentors, things like that, all of that makes you feel like you're less alone when you are working for yourself. And I find that to be a huge struggle early on in your entrepreneurship journey. So that is something I want to continue to prioritize, and making sure I am making room for that and investing in that because it's super duper important. And lastly, social. I want to build a support network, and a local support network. I have some friends that I've made since moving to Orlando, but it's not something I've invested a lot of time into, and I want to be more intentional about this and actually putting time into these friendships that I'm creating and building them up so that they're stronger friendships, because that is something that was really hard while going through this whole experience. It was really me and Oliver alone dealing with this, and although I had wonderful people who reached out to me to check on me during this, I realized that living living near family, you get a lot more support, physical support when you're going through hard things versus when you're just alone by yourself and don't have that support network. And then I want to build more community. So I talked about that in the faith aspect by joining a church, but I also want to become a regular at some local places around here. And something that's been kind of holding me back from that has been the fact that I don't have a car, but it's looking good that I think I'm actually gonna have a used car soon and I won't be sharing with my husband anymore. So I should be able to go to more local places to do my work, go to the library, go to coffee shops, go to specific food places for lunch. And there's a few things I've been doing that have given me that sense of community, such as going to a chiropractor each week where I feel like there's someone that knows me and is expecting me on a weekly basis, like little things like that. But I want to really invest more into this because this is something I had when I was living in Gainesville during college that really made me feel like I was a part of the community and that I was, more valued in the community and I valued others. And it just gives this really amazing feeling when you have a community around you. I truly believe and feel optimistic about this concept of trying to achieve stability and increasing the stabilizing forces in all aspects of my life instead of just focusing on the financial aspect. I think it's going to be such a relief for my mental health and my mental well-being, not constantly focusing on the numbers and success and all of these other things, while still getting me to where I want to be in my life, still being able to focus on my goals and not feeling like I'm just letting life fly by without me, because I'm definitely not the type to want to do that either. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey towards trying to figure out what true stability actually means in life. It is definitely not just about the money. It's really about balance across all aspects of your life. And again, just creating those foundations in all the different areas of your life. And if some of those categories don't resonate with you, then I would challenge you to identify which ones do and which ones don't, and things you might want to add in that are things that you want to increase that foundation, make it stronger, and build up a overall sense of stability in your life. By challenging my limiting beliefs and rewriting this formula, that ever elusive concept of stability actually seems attainable. So I'm curious, what are you going to be working on to increase your overall sense of stability in your life? And bonus points if you comment down below which category you're working on, as well as exactly how you plan on increasing the stability in that category. Before you go, if you will hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to join the community and continue on this journey with me in challenging my limiting beliefs and seeing what I'm actually capable of in life. If you want to hear more about my journey of leaving my 9-to-5 job and working for myself, then click here to watch this video next. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.